Welcome back to the pod. Hit leg day a couple days ago. Oh, feeling like an old man for sure. What have I got to say? Am I centered up here? Let's see. Yeah. Fit check, something slight, just a little sweatshirt today, some chill black pants. This is probably the highlight. I got these New Balances. Kind of old. I got them back in college, but with some fun gum bottoms, pretty sick. But yeah, I got my little REI hat too on full Denver on you guys, of the week, Strokes. Could it be anything else, truly? Is this it? You tell me, Yeah, I sort of cooked this up on my way to work this morning, and I sort of been dabbling. What is the right way to call this? And I think I figured it out. Judging by the title, you can tell I figured it out. Before we get into the wisdom of the week, though, not many updates on my life. Just I'm really finding that just doing stuff during the week after work, if you guys don't do that, just do it. Just set up something small with a friend every Tuesday or something, just keep something consistent. Because what I'm finding is it's just making my week just fly by. And I've been loving that. That's been sweet. So, I actually don't have work tomorrow. It's a Wednesday, but I'm doing something special this weekend. And I'm not going to tell you guys what it is, but I think it'll come back on the pod at a future date. So note this date. I'm going to do a surprise drop. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is, but I'm doing something really cool. And the podcast, well, not the, I keep calling it the podcast, but it's kind of slowly, I feel shifting towards something else. But you guys are going to know about it. That's all I got to say. Fact of the week. I feel this is just turning into immunology because to be honest, when I come on here, it's kind of like a spur of the moment thing, and I don't really sit. I'm oh, let me look up. I know a few episodes ago I was oh, I want to know how credit cards work, when you swipe them, and it's just I don't want to look that up, figure it out, and by the time I figure it out, then this kind of state that I'm in sort of goes away. This is really creepy. Do you see that? No one's home. Sus. That's all I gotta say. But yeah, so what I do know though is immunology, and I do know facts about immunology. So I can spit those. So basically, what I want to teach you guys today is, okay, so you think about inflammation, right? We all know inflammation as this thing that kind of happens when you get a cut, but it also happens which people don't think about as often, but when you get sick, right? You think about, I think when you get the flu or something, some sort of sickness in your lungs, and when you cough, it literally hurts, that's inflammation. Mucus also increases inflammation. All these things, that's all inflammation that happens when you get sick, because what happens is your immune cells traffic there, and because there's more cells in that area of the body than there normally is, you're gonna get swelling, and you might feel pain when you touch it. That could be a fact in and of itself. But what I wanted to talk about is, how does this inflammation spark? How do you get this inflammation to begin with? How does it all kick off? And I want to look at this in terms of dangerous microbes, right? Microbes that infect you and cause sickness to you. And really how I see it is this kind of really cool analogy that I thought of in the car. So basically, we have our cells, right? And your body, when it grows up from a very early age, I'd say around like, around 1 is when most of this happens. You develop what's known as like a sense of self. So, and this is strictly speaking from like your immune system point of view. So, your immune system over time determines what parts of you are you and what parts of you aren't you and therefore foreign, and therefore we got to keep an eye on this thing because it's foreign, and anything foreign in the body, I mean, obviously like the guards are up, right? We're like, we got to check that out, make sure, if you have a proper immune response to pollen, like obviously pollen isn't dangerous to you, right? So ideally what should happen is, say some harmless thing comes in like pollen, you won't get an immune response because your body sort of learns like, oh, that's not dangerous. But let's say it learns that some of these bugs are dangerous, right? But by this time you have a sense of self sort of developed, and your body sets up, and I think this is a really good analogy for it. What I would call is like, you ever see like Mission Impossible where they like basically like the gem, or like Indiana Jones too, but I think Mission Impossible makes more sense, where they're like stealing some sort of like money, or let's call it like a diamond. Like I walk across this room and there's a diamond on the other side of the room. But to get to that diamond, and I swear it's a Mission Impossible, and there's like lasers going everywhere, and like, Tom Cruise is like going through all the lasers and stuff and trying not to set him off. But if you set him off, like some sort of trap will happen and it'll like kill you or something. That's literally what the immune system does. So all those lasers going every which way, the invaders, say let's say like a dangerous bacteria, for example. Dangerous bacteria gets into your body, and from day one, it's already super hard to get into the body, but say it gets in. There are lasers everywhere. I mean, everywhere that distinguish, and this is why I say self and not self, because your body determines, oh, I know what self is. And when a dangerous microbe comes in, it knows that that's not self, right? So the body sort of is able to use these different tripwires to sort of distinguish, and like characteristics on the bacteria itself that are able to distinguish and therefore set off those tripwires, while your cells can just walk through the tripwires and it's fine. But a bacteria that's dangerous, it's going to set off all those tripwires. But this is why it gets cool, because bacteria have evolved to, like Tom Cruise, go like between the tripwires and try not to like set any of them off. But what ultimately happens is the bacteria will set them off, right? And it'll set them off, and then you get this huge, cascade of inflammation. And then, I mean, all the cells, like the immune cells in your body are on you, and they're like out to get you, right? And like kill the bacteria, right? But I say all this to say, what I really wanted to break down here is the tripwires in your body are actually, it's crazy, but the equivalent of receptors on your cells. Receptors on your cells receptors on your cells that recognize certain pieces of the bacteria that your cells don't have. So they therefore know that that's dangerous. We got to worry about that. And I think everyone gets kind of what a receptor is. It's think of I don't know if you can see this keyhole here, but it's like a lock and key. Like say I'm a bacteria and I have this like molecule sticking out on me that's like, this is a molecule that like no cell in my body expresses or would ever express. That molecule, the host has developed a keyhole that's specific for this molecule, and it'll go and just insert right into the key, and it fits like a lock and a key, and that cell will get triggered, and it's like, oh, we know that's foreign, we're going to take that out, and it kills it. So that's kind of the rundown of like the tripwires that are in your body. Think of it like that. There's a lot of details that go into it. I'm not really going to get into it, but just for broad sense, like that's kind of how this works, right? But shifting gears here, I feel like there's no like smooth transition into the wisdom of the week from the science of the week, but wisdom of the week, because like I said, I've been crafting this for a while now and trying to figure out the best way how to deliver it. And I feel like I figured it out. And it all for me starts in the title. Like if I can figure out a good title, it like clicks with me really well. And one thing that I'm trying to incorporate more that I really like doing last episode was I really like good movies that have a good theme, because it makes you think about things. Like I said in the last episode, like wise people always talk in like metaphors and analogies, which I feel like, I don't know why, but it like speaks to, I think it speaks to people better in a way than just telling them point blank, do this. Like in this video, right? Like the title is Fear Fears You, which I think is just a catchy title, to be honest. Like you got to give me props. Give me props. Give me props. That's good. That's good. But instead of just, I'm going to explain it, but I want to also explain it from a movie point of view, because I thought of a movie that also has the same theme, really, now that I like stop and think about it. And again, like really like one of my favorite, like either like movies or books, like both of those can have good themes, right? But anyways, introing this Fear Fears You, it really just gets at this idea that whatever, and I've talked about this a few episodes ago, but I find that I think my videos deliver a general message, but each video kind of delivers the message in a slightly different way. And even if I am sometimes repeating myself, I think it's still beneficial, like because it gets across the point in a different way that maybe the last time I said it, like it doesn't exactly click with you, but now that I shift it a little bit and I say it in this way, maybe it does click for you. And that's kind of the goal here, right? So this whole Fear Fears You idea is kind of like, okay, this is just so hot. Oh my god. It's really this idea that what I've found to be the most, and it seems so backwards, but in general, I find that the most fulfilling part of life, and when I'm like experiencing the most happiness and just like the most feeling the most alive, is when I do things that I don't want to do. And it like, I know this is the name of my podcast is Flying Intuition, but intuitively, this makes no sense. Like if you just intuitively stop and think for a second, why would I do the things I don't want to do? It makes no sense. But in reality, and how this connects, is that a lot of those things that you don't want to do, you fear. And this is like, I don't know, is fear, I mean, being scared is an emotion. I don't think fear is necessarily, I don't know, maybe it is. But fear, being scared, they're one and the same. I'm just going to, for the sake of this, just categorize it as an emotion, because it is something you feel, right? Fear is a feeling. And it's, why does it exist though, right? Evolutionarily, it's put into place because back in like the caveman days, there are some things that just to survive, like fear is necessary, right? Like a tiger's chasing after you, you better be scared. You better be fearful so you can outrun the tiger ideally, or find some sort of solution really fast, like get up in a tree, like figure something out, right? But in today's society, fear is detrimental to you in a lot of ways, because you start fearing things that are not going to kill you, right? Like I just think of this because I'm a grad student and I have presentations coming up, like public speaking. A lot of people fear public speaking, right? But in reality, you have nothing to be afraid of, right? Like you won't die. Like fear is merely there. And I don't have evidence of this, but just think about things from a biological perspective. Fear is there to keep you alive, right? And public speaking, you will not die public speaking, right? You will live. You will give the world's worst or the world's best presentation. You will live at the end of that. And I think there's something to be said for really facing those fears. And I think 2025 has been this year for me so far where I'm just done like backing down from this and like letting this fear like eat me up alive. And this is a perfect transition into what the movie is. And the movie slash book, they're one and the same. There's some different. The book is better, but It is the movie or book that I'm talking about by Stephen King. And sorry if you haven't read it or watched it. It was like out in the 80s or something. Like, so too bad. I'm spoiling it. Um, Basically there's this clown, right? And he goes around like literally putting so much fear into people that they get so scared that I think like the general premise is like the clown grows, like he gets stronger the more you fear him, right? Um so each time, and there gets to a point where like the people reach, I would describe it as like maximum fear, and that's when the clown comes and like ultimately like kills the person, right? So, but this group of like I forget what they're called. There's like a group in the movie, this group of kids that ends up like defeating it, which is like the name of the villain, but like the clown. Um but now that I'm starting to realize that, I think I'm figuring out what the analogy that Stephen King wanted, like to get by this clown, like what he wanted that clown to stand for. And I really think it is, he calls it for a reason, right? Because it can be anything, right? Even in the book and the movie, it transforms into your worst fear, right? Literally the worst thing. Like if you're afraid of snakes, it'll transform into a snake with like a clown head or whatever, you know? Um, and they end up killing it. Like they shoot it with a silver bullet, which I mean, that's just like classic horror shit. But, um, they also, the main way they kill it is they group up on it, and it finds itself like transforming into like the entire group's like different fears. Like there's like every kid is afraid of something else, but it gets to this point where it gets kind of trapped and it keeps transforming, but like it's not gaining a hold, right? It's trying to instill fear in these kids, and none of them are scared. And like to make it weaker, they'll actually like, it will transform and they'll start like laughing or making jokes of it. And really, like, what this all builds on is that I think the clown, like, say the clown is a person, right? That clown, I think how the trope goes, how I see it at least, is it turned into that because it was so scared of its own fears that it flipped and decided, I'm so scared of my own fears, I'm going to gain energy from instilling fear into other people. And what this really gets at is the fact that, are you going to let this villain, eat you up inside? Right? And I think that's what Stephen King is trying to get at. Like when it kills people, the fear has gotten to them. And Stephen King calls it because it are it is anything that you fear in this life. It can be anything. And that clown is facing you, and fear wants to get the best of you, right? It's looking at you and it's like, you're going to back down. You're going to be afraid. But in reality, it's scared because it knows you have the power to overcome it, right? It knows that deep down, if you weren't scared of that thing, you could overcome it. And you could actually instill fear into it. I don't know if you guys are following, but say fear is a person, right? And it's there and it's just hanging over you, right? And it's like, oh, we got Jeremy today. He's a little tired. He's a little insecure today, maybe. Maybe he's a little anxious today. We got him. We got him right where we want him. And I wake up, no matter what the circumstance, could have the worst day of my life the day before. And instead of letting this just loom over me the entire day, I say, no, today is my day. Today I'm taking fear and I'm giving it one. I'm giving it a run, and we're gonna see what happens. And the thing of it is that whatever it is, like I said before in past episodes, you fail, you succeed, it doesn't matter. Even if you try, that the fear is scared, right? It becomes scared because you're taking it to the man, right? You're like, you're flipping it on its head. It's like, I'm supposed to be instilling fear into you. Fear isn't supposed to be instilling, fear. It's I think you guys get what I'm saying, right? Like, it shouldn't be like you're actually scaring fear, if that makes any sense. And I think what I'm going to try to remind myself every day is is really, am I doing that? Am I flipping it on its head, and instead of fear, letting fear take me for a ride, I'm going to take fear for a ride. I'm going to say, I'm done being scared. I'm done like stressing about this stupid stuff that in reality is not only going to make me, this is so cheesy. This is probably one of the cheesiest like quotes ever said on Life of the Germ, period. But you know the phrase, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? And I think this is it, man. Fear won't kill you, but if you attempt to overcome the fear, you will be stronger because you're now above that. You realize, I was scared of that. I'm not scared of that anymore. And the next time you do it, guess what? Whatever that is, because I've been doing this more, and I've been getting in these states more where I'm just like fired up. I'm ready. I'm just like excited to take on the day because I'm not scared of anything anymore. I just don't care. Like I'm done. I'm done living in fear. And I would ask the same question to you guys. And I think what I want to leave you guys with is, you know, just an outstanding question that you guys can just think about as I end this episode. Does fear fear you? Do you instill fear into fear? Or are you letting fear take you for a ride? Thank you for listening to Life of Germ. I'm your host, Jeremy. We'll catch you in the next one.